Jays Extra.
For the best coverage of Anglers baseball, it's the Hook Podcast.
It's gone into the Cardinals bullpen. Evan Longoria has tied the game at 4.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Jeff Belge loads the bases and somehow dances his way out of the jam. It is long gone. It's another torque bomb.
Now to your hosts, Ben Schulman and Emmanuel Berbari.
Welcome to The Hook. We are your hosts, Ben Schulman and Emmanuel Berbari. Thank you so much for joining us today on the first episode of the 2021 season. I don't know what to call it, more of the preseason, but we're talking baseball here again with the Chatham Anglers. And Emmanuel, I'm really excited to get back into it.
Just so pumped up, Ben. We went a summer without Cape League baseball, so it's only fitting that we're in that time of year where the sun's peeking out, you get some warmer weather, you start to hear those murmurs, crack of the mitt, the pop of the bat, and we're getting into that exciting time where we can really just look forward to that long baseball season. I know we're going to get into some Major League Baseball today and Chatham movement throughout the majors, but also just feeling the movement towards the return of Chatham baseball, which is something I know we've longed for quite some time.
Yes, definitely. If you haven't seen on Twitter or on the Chatham Anglers website, Emmanuel and I are the broadcasters for the Anglers this season. And, we're both really excited. Just in case you didn't read that article, a little bit about each of us. I guess I'll start with myself, Emmanuel. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I go to school at Syracuse University, and I've really been a diehard baseball fan ever since Alex Rios stepped on the field for the Blue Jays. I love hockey naturally as a Canadian. I'm studying broadcast journalism at Syracuse, and I guess if I'm going to give like a weird fact about me, Emmanuel, I'm colorblind, so not completely black and white, but I see colors as different colors, so that's always an interesting thing for broadcasting sports teams.
Absolutely, Ben. And fun fact, Ben and I are still, of course, getting to know each other a little bit. I learned that fact about Ben from Dan Duva. So we are still learning these facts about each other as we go along and starting to form that chemistry that will hopefully be on display at Veterans Field this summer. A little about myself: from Long Island in New York, the North Shore, and a town called Greenlawn. And I go to Fordham, a lot of similar with what Ben is doing, a lot of play-by-play, hosting, and just that passion for baseball, Ben. I'm sure we're going to dive deep into it this summer and really be tested in how much we love the game, but I'm sure that will be on full display, how much we love the game of baseball. And I've done a couple baseball summer leagues, but there's really no place like the Cape. So I'm really excited to get up there. And, we've had a lot of time this year hunkered down, and it'll be exciting to get out there and really tell the stories of the players and have a summer on the Cape for sure.
I don't know about you, but it'll be my first summer on the Cape. So the entire experience for me, I can't wait just to see what everything is all about, baseball and non-baseball related in Chatham. Before we get into some more serious stuff, because you're a New York guy, I think the listeners need to know, which sports teams do you align with in New York?
So I align with the Yankees, which may not be a popular thing to say to people who may be listening in Massachusetts, but huge Yankee fan. I'm very excited for this year. I know my Yankees, your Blue Jays are going to be duking it out for the American League East, and Toronto certainly made some waves in the offseason, so we'll have a lot to talk about Major League Baseball-wise. I also am a big Knicks fan, so pleasantly surprised with that performance this year. The Jets continue to induce some sort of pain in different ways, shapes, and forms every single year. Hockey, a little bit more of an outsider. I follow the Rangers, follow the Islanders. Being an Island guy, I have a lot of Islanders fans surrounding me as well. But really Yankees, Jets, Knicks. So get a little bit of success out of the way off the top. And then I feel the struggle that some other sports fans do as well.
Yeah, I'm 3 Toronto teams, so I've had a lot of misery in my childhood, but the one team that I cheer for that's really great is the Green Bay Packers. So they're kind of my fail-safe. I know they're going to be good every year. at least until Aaron Rodgers leaves. Let's get back into baseball. There's an upcoming season with an upcoming schedule, and of course we don't have a million things to talk about it. We're not gonna lie, we don't have rosters or anything to that effect, but we do have a schedule. And Eman, it looks like a pretty regular campaign that the Cape Cod Baseball League has set out for us this season.
Absolutely. It looks like a full slate on tap, and it's perfect because we're entering a 162-game Major League Baseball season, a pretty normal Chatham season as well on the Cape as the Anglers look to replicate some of that success they've had the last couple of years, a perennial contender, and of course everything's subject to change in this climate, but the way I look at it, up and down, you have a few off days sprinkled in here and there, but really a full slate like you would have a normal summer. And I think that's what we're headed towards is just a summer where we can have an escape towards baseball. You're starting early June, going to early August. That's a typical format when fans are used to strolling up to Veterans Field.
The season starts on June 12th at Falmouth. The home opener is the next day, Orleans at Chatham on June 13th. You said it, lots of off days. I think they put a lot in there, and it helps with the flexibility if anything needs to be changed. Fingers crossed things will be normal, but we never really know in today's world. And then the season closes out at Orleans on August 1st with the playoffs on August 3rd. Any other thoughts on the season, Eman? I don't think there's a ton for us to elaborate on, but is there anything I didn't key you up on that you want to say about 2021?
Well, we've already circled some dates in our schedule articles that we always do, but I always look forward to that July 4th time of the summer, especially when you're talking Cape League baseball. That's pretty much the midway point where you're starting to surge towards a championship chase, but you're still in the relatively early stages since the season gets underway June 12th this year. But you have Chatham at Orleans on July 4th, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Get that rivalry brewing. And then a 3-game homestand, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th following July 4th. Orleans once again, Harwich, and then Wareham. So I think July 4th to 7th is going to be a fun time. You're getting into the groove of the season. You're starting to look ahead to where the standings are shaking up and where Chatham fits into that picture. So if there's any zoom in type scenario with the schedule, I would say that July 4th weekend into the early week of July 5th will be very exciting.
The home and home with Orleans definitely sticks out as one of the better stretches of the schedule for sure. I might make sure we do a double Independence Day celebration, because July 1st, 3 days earlier, is Canada's Independence Day at Brewster. So who knows? Maybe I'll convince people to get festive there as well.
I like that. Let's rep both ends of the broadcast booth. So I'll definitely circle that date as well at Brewster, and then we get YD at Chatham the following day. So we're going to make a nice week out of that.
Yes, for sure. There's a lot to look forward to in the schedule, but there are also a lot of former Chatham players that are doing very exciting things right now. We released an article back in January about some of the movement of Chatham players in the majors, and let's talk a little MLB Chatham collaboration here. Were there any moves that stuck out to you? Any guys that stick out to you initially?
I think the one guy I'm circling, and this may be an obvious circle, is Chris Bryant, who of course is one of the most notable Chatham alums. He was the subject of a lot of trade rumors over the offseason. The Cubs, of course, making a lot of headlines with where they're going to take the organization. And Chris Bryant coming off a little bit of a down 2020 season and questions about what he is at this stage of his career. Is he that former MVP? Is he going to put up those type of numbers? Is he not? I'm excited about the fact that he's still in Chicago and getting ready to prove what he still is. So I'm excited to watch Chris Bryant first and foremost in this 2021 season. He's a super talented player. He's a guy who I think is vastly underrated, even when he gets the sort of microscope criticism of trying to barometer him towards that MVP season. I'm really excited to see him play another season in Chicago.
Yeah, he's got to be one of, if not the top guy that I'm looking forward to as well. Contract year for Bryant, so this is really when everything either comes together or doesn't. And I think a lot of people, as you said, maybe a little too micro analyzing a 34 game 2020 season. At the end of the day in 2019, he hits 31 home runs and has a 900 OPS. So I think that he's a guy that's primed to bounce back because the 2020 season really wasn't a great showing for a lot of people due to a lot of circumstances. And Bryant is one of the guys that I think can make a major impact. Another guy, a much I didn't want to say older. I'm trying to find a way to say, more in the past alum that I'm very excited about. Rich Hill, who embarks on his 16th MLB season, actually 17th, 16th year, 17th MLB season with the Rays this year.
Rays.
Rich Hill is past the age of 40 and still one of the most effective pitchers in baseball. He's with the Rays now, who I think are still a contender in the AL East. And he hasn't had an ERA above 3 since 2013. So I think Rich Hill could be really fun to watch.
He's always fun to watch. And I think if you're looking at a Rays team that always finds ways to piece it together, even when they get rid of some of the marquee items, if you'll put it that way, and guys like Blake Snell, Rich Hill's a guy who I could see stepping in there and really producing in a big way for Tampa Bay. He's a little bit funky. He comes from the side. He has that sweeping slider. He's a fun watch on the mound, and I've always been a big Rich Hill fan, and even cooler that he has a Chatham connection and is going to a team that always seems to find those diamonds in the rough. I'm happy you mentioned, though, Ben, not judging too much off the 2020 season, because we're certainly not going to do that in Chatham, given that the Cape League season was not to be. Certainly not going to do that in Major League Baseball when a lot of players, just marquee players, did not have the seasons they would have hoped and really didn't have a chance to get in the groove. If you had a bad 10 or 15 games, really turned into a bad season. There wasn't that much of a chance to rebound. One of those guys, J.D. Davis of the Mets, Chatham 13, and he was a guy who absolutely tore it up in 2019 and became really the top acquisition of Brodie Van Wagenen's tenure as Mets GM. He didn't have that much production in 2020, hit 247, only a 389 slugging. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way for a Mets team that is really knocking on the door of doing great things, and he can play in multiple spots and really just hit with the best of them. You have him against a lefty is one of those dangerous at-bats where the ball can leave the ballpark.
The improved lineup, I think, really helps him as well. Not that J.D. Davis is any slouch, but now he's probably not one of the top 3 or 4 guys on the pitcher's mind when you're coming into a game against the Mets. And that means that he might get some more tired at bats after a pitcher has gone through Frankie Lindor and Pete Alonso. You have the tendency to ease up a little bit as you get towards the back of the lineup, and I think Davis could really benefit from that because, as you said, talented hitter, hit over 300 in 2019 with 22 bombs. Definitely something that I think he can try to replicate in 2021. A guy who actually had a great 2020 and a great 2019, Zach Gallen. So unfortunately for Gallen, he currently has a hairline fracture, I believe it is, on his right arm. So still have to wait and see when he'll actually start the season. But when he starts, the expectations for Gallen are really high considering 2 incredibly successful abbreviated seasons.
Very high. Excited to watch some of those players who may not necessarily be in the greatest of straits right now, and that's the case for a lot of players throughout the league who kind of bore the brunt of the 2020 season. Someone who is in that similar boat is Todd Frazier, another guy I have on the radar. He was part of those great Chatham teams, of course, of the mid 2000s, right after the turn of the century with the Evan Longorias of the world. And he's a guy who's still unsigned. He's a free agent. And when you think of veteran bats and guys who can potentially factor in, it seems Todd Frazier's on the trade market every single year in Major League Baseball. Could he be signed as a free agent and then make a team and have an impact, you know he's going to impact the clubhouse. Vibrant personality. Will he impact with the bat? That's the question that a lot of teams are probably asking, but I'm enthused to see whether Todd Frazier gets another shot in Major League Baseball. It may not be right now. He's still on the market, but you could get a minor league invite. You could get a one-year deal from one of these teams that wants some pop from the right side.
It's a really interesting case with Frazier because he actually was signed with Pittsburgh at one point this year, opted out of his deal. I think he's looking potentially, I don't want to speculate. I'm not in Todd's head, but maybe he's looking for more of a contender. But the Pirates have reported that they're willing to have him return. So maybe there's a home for Frazier if he can't find elsewhere to land. He gets back into Pittsburgh.
And he's only 35 years old, so he's aging in baseball years, but he's not a finished product. He's not a guy who's done. So I think there's still mileage left in that Todd Frazier tank, and it's just a matter of whether it's a Pirates or another contender that will look to pick him up. I would lean towards contender, given that he's a guy who can really come in and spark the room. As a Yankee fan myself, I remember in 2017, he was a big reason why that young core was even able to do anything come the postseason. So I'm excited to watch Todd Frazier, and he's someone I definitely have on my radar this season for sure.
Yeah, I think even if he ends up going back to a team like the Pirates, he's a huge midseason trade candidate for sure. There's one guy that I think is incredibly obviously on both of our radars this year who probably won't hit Major League Baseball, Spencer Torkelson.
Yep.
Chatham fans are very familiar with torque bombs getting launched left and right. And, he's going to try and replicate a lot of that in the Tigers system. What do you think is kind of a success in your eyes for Torkelson here in his first year of pro ball?
Normally, when you look at these guys, I think if you advance a level in your first year, you probably know that you're standing out. Now, a few guys will skyrocket through the system. I think it speaks to Torkelson's talent and aura that there was even chatter among fans, could we put him on the opening day roster? Now, that's nonsense. You can't really do that with someone you just drafted. You got to put him through the system. You got to put him through the minors. You got to get him that development. But it just speaks to how beyond his years he is, how prepared he is to make an impact and really be one of the greats we've seen come through Chatham. But I think if you advance a level, maybe two for someone as special as Torkelson, that's a successful season. But really what you want to see is that it factor that you saw in Chatham those years just translate into pro ball, and any struggles that he has early on, that's acceptable. You just hope that you can see that continual growth and everything will be good to go from there. I'm excited to see him progress. I think that's definitely in the cards, advancing a level or two this year for Torkelson.
For sure, and I'm excited on the defensive side of the ball to see where they want to play him. I mean, he's played both corner spots in the infield. Technically became the first baseman to be drafted first overall. That was a lot of firsts in one sentence. But he can definitely play third base as well. So that'll be something to watch as he heads through the 2021 campaign. I got one more guy, and there's a little selfish interest. Toronto Blue Jays pitcher Alek Manoah. I wouldn't bring him up if this guy wasn't going nuts so far in spring training. He's made 3 outings, a total of 7 innings pitched, and he has 15 strikeouts and 1 base runner allowed. I mean, Manoah is going crazy, and a guy who was previously with the Mets, thought of to be a long-term prospect, might now end up cracking the rotation, or at least cracking the bullpen for the Jays at some point this season.
I'm going to counter with a Washington national. That's Yan Gomes of 08. And someone who really did it with the bat last year. Only 30 games, but a 787 OPS. That was, let me see here, second highest of his career since year 2 when he was 25 years old. So for a Nationals team that I'm not sure if anyone really knows the proper expectation for them, because they won the World Series a couple of years ago, which seems like a distant memory now, over the Houston Astros, kind of faded off in a pandemic-laden season. Coming back, I think they could factor into the top 3 in that division if everything goes right. Maybe not. But I look forward to the role that Yan Gomes has, whether it's starting a few more games than he normally would, or factoring in potentially as a guy who could receive a lot of reps at the catching position. So coming off a season where he produced offensively more so than most years in his career, where he's been more of a role player, I'm excited to see the role that Yan Gomes plays for the Nationals.
There's definitely an opportunity for him to get 400 plus plate appearances, which would be a lot and a great opportunity for Yan to continue his long successful MLB career. I'm out of guys, I think. E-Man, you got anyone else that you want to talk about?
I think I'm out of guys as well. Yan Gomes was the last one I highlighted, going on age 34, a seasoned veteran. It's crazy that a lot of these guys we kind of grew up with watching in the majors and came through Chatham in those 04, 05, 06 type seasons. These are now the veterans of the league. They're the elder statesmen, like a Todd Frazier. So the impact they have may be different than someone like Spencer Torkelson in a couple of years, who could be, the face of the league maybe when he comes up. But I find that progression really cool, and highlighting some of these players is awesome because you never know, especially as we bring these stories to life this summer, who that next Torkelson is going to be, who that next star of tomorrow, as the Cape League would put it, would be. And a lot of those will come through Chatham this summer, and a lot of them will be able to hone their skills and really face that elite competition for the first time on the Cape and have that measuring stick of, okay, when I get drafted, is this something for me?
Most definitely. And if you're listening at home and wondering why we didn't mention, Evan Longoria of 05, Kyle Seager 07, 08, Andrew Miller 04, 05, Whit Merrifield 09, all those guys are amazing at baseball,
right.
and are going to continue to be amazing at baseball, and I don't think that much has changed on that front. As we wrap it up, E-Man, just a few words on what we plan to do here for the Hook as we head towards the season. Manuel and I are going to be coming to you every week with updates on former MLB players that are doing stuff in the majors, of course, former Chatham players in MLB, former Chatham players in college, and we're going to try and talk to some former and maybe current guys if the rosters come out. Talk to some people about the great stories that they've had in their careers and how they're progressing either in the majors, in college, or towards the Cape League, to get to know some of the Chatham community a bit more. E-Man, I hate to put you on the spot. Is there anyone you'd like to call out, someone you think is interesting that we should try to talk to?
I think I'm going to keep everyone in suspense on this one. Some of the names you just mentioned
problem.
maybe that we didn't highlight, but we're looking to monitor. We're going to cast a wide net here. Hopefully we can get some bigger names on the podcast, but also we're just hoping to, if you've been following the Chatham social media accounts over the last several months, a lot of monitoring of what's going on in college baseball for Chatham alums of just a couple of years ago or last summer, and then looking ahead to this season with some of the players that are inevitably going to make the Chatham roster and get ready for this Cape League run. So I think there will be some introductions on the way, and you'll get to learn those players a little bit more, but you'll also have in-depth looks into the progression of the players you heard on the radio broadcast or you saw in person at Veterans Field. We'll be able to catch up to a ton of neat people as they make their journeys throughout, whether it's Vanderbilt baseball, some sort of big high-level college program, or pro baseball already going through the ranks. So in addition to just hearing from us, we want you to know that we're going to do our best to highlight some of the cool stories and storylines that will continue to define Chatham baseball for the next few years.
And you can always keep it locked with us on Twitter at Chatham Anglers, or on SoundCloud. Just search Chatham Anglers in the top bar. We're posting tons of content there. Our website is also putting up lots of good stuff, chathamanglers.com. So whatever you're looking for related to Chatham baseball, those three places are going to have everything you need. Make sure to reach out to either of us on Twitter if there's anything you want to see on the Hook. and we will be sure to try and get as many requests, either if you reach out to Chatham or our personal accounts. We will try to get those onto the podcast as much as we can. That does it for the first episode of The Hook in 2021. For Emmanuel Berberi, I'm Ben Schulman. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.